Welcome to the AK Podcast, where we explore science and nutrition behind livestock care and management with the best and the brightest in the business. I'm your host, Chris Radke, part of the sales team here at Agri-King. And with me today is the Director of Field Services and a member of Sales Management Team, Mr. Mike Donaldson. Mike, how you doing?
Very, very well, Chris. How's everything in your world been lately?
I am pretty good. It's been not too cold, so we're doing great in my family.
Good.
Hey, Mike. I'm pretty excited about our guest today, so who do we have and what are we going to talk about?
Well, today, Chris, we have Don Sanders, a teammate of mine on the Agri-King sales management team. Don has probably done more different jobs in the field than anybody in Agri-King history, done great work in every step. The thing we want Don to talk about today is something he's pretty passionate about. There have been historically many ways that we track performance on a dairy farm. Pounds of milk per cow per day, percent protein and milk fat, income over feed costs. About 20, 25 years ago, Agri-King was one of the early dairy nutrition companies to start watching feed efficiency. And what Don has come to really be a strong advocate for with us is component efficiency, which starts to tie all those different pieces together and is going to be a really important metric going forward. So to start, Don, give us a little bit of rundown about all these things I've alluded to that you've done, and we'll then move into today's topic.
Okay, it sounds good. Hi, everybody. Really glad to be a part of this podcast. Been with Agri-King for quite a while, over 40 years. Got acquainted with Agri-King by feeding the nutrition program even before I was employed by Agri-King, and my employment started with Agri-King in 1984 because our representative that was taking care of our own dairy was retiring, and George DeLong, one of our senior members at that point in Agri-King staff, asked me if I wanted the job, and I said no. I actually said no for 6 months. Then I said, oh, maybe I can give it a try and see what happens. And I said, if this doesn't work out, there'll be no hard feelings. So as you can tell, by 40 years, it worked out pretty well. I have two great passions in my life. The one is people, and the second is cows. And I want to get the best out of them, both of those species. That is at all possible. And I've had that, I guess, a passion for all my life, and encountered many, many great people over the years, many conversations and listening, and still trying to understand that cow and that rumen and how it works so well, because, of course, we run into some challenges. It's not always the same. It's why we have a job. We're trying to make sure all those little rumen bugs really reproduce and make themselves over again to get the job done in a more efficient manner. So I'm just delighted to work in this dairy industry and meet great people and help them out with their cows.
Perfect. Well, as you've been, between the time you dairied for yourself and 40 plus years with Agri-King, speak a little bit as you saw people change how they set their goals into things that maybe mattered a little more. You might even want to talk in the most recent Hordes Dairyman that I got. There was a one-page article advocating that people need to pay attention to pounds of components, not just pounds of milk, that the market's changing. Without becoming a marketing expert, what is the change in market that's made this so much more important than it used to be?
Well, the biggest change that has happened, even though we don't like what I'm going to say, is we're down to right around 20% of our milk used for fluid. That used to be the total opposite way back, I'm going to say in the 60s, early 70s, 80% of that was going to fluid. And now that has changed the pricing structure because people love to eat cheese and, of course, yogurt and other soft stuff like that. So the price now has reflected that we're getting paid more for a tenth of a pound of butterfat, which right now the average is 30 cents, than we are for 1 pound of milk. So if you look at the economics of what I just said, it's more important to get another tenth of a pound of fat than it is to get a pound of milk. So I had many discussions with different clients over the years, and now they're finally getting it. I said, it's concentrated milk. You pay by the hundredweight for that to leave. So you're actually saving yourself some money just by increasing your butterfat because you are concentrating it. And it's not. And the consumer demand has changed, and it is fueling what our dairies are being reimbursed for.
I'm kind of, and I mean, obviously I knew what you were going to talk about, Don. I knew this was coming, and it's when you say that we're down to 20% of the milk going as fluid milk, it hurts a little bit inside. I mean, back in the 60s and 70s, it was a mark of a poor dairyman where I grew up in Pennsylvania, that your milk would go for cheese, not fluid. That was the mark of either poor quality or, just you didn't want anything but your milk in a bottle. That was the only thing that was worth chasing. And that is an awfully big change. You said you finally got people starting to grasp that this change is taking place. It doesn't make you behind if you're a dairyman that's still figuring this out, does it?
No, it does not. Not at all, because we were entrenched in our ways for a long time. And it's something that if you aren't really looking at your milk check, I know how they are. You get the check, goes to the bank, it's automatically deposited now. You see and if you're not dissecting it, you're not looking at what the value was of the fat or the protein or the fluid. Most people just say, the bottom line, what is the milk house price today? Mailbox price.
One of the things, and I was with Agri-King when this emphasis began of looking at feed efficiency, and you were very much out in front of that. I've kind of been surprised. I mean, the monogastric world, poultry, swine, eventually beef, dairy's really the last of the livestock industry to put real value on feed efficiency. And I know we're going to get to component efficiency, but I think feed efficiency brought into these aspects of production is that current final turn of the wheel to get a really valuable mark. Even now, do you find a lot of people that don't give much thought to the feed efficiency part of producing?
Sure. There's still people that way, and there's still people. There's still some people champions. Cows eat more, get more milk, so to speak, but that's not really increasing your bottom line if you look at the total picture. The other thing I want to bring up is whole farm efficiency, from the cropping aspect right to the cow to the manure application again and again, and you keep doing it over and over. But each of those steps, you have opportunity to be more efficient. And when I first heard about feed efficiency, like, okay, yeah, we're going to feed less and get more, I thought, yeah, right. So, but when you start to fine tune the rations and get really great quality forages, those cows will actually eat less and give more, which is a kind of amazing thing and what a cow can do. And I got to share a short story. Of course, I grew up and went 4-H and showed cattle, and we also put little exhibits in our fair locally. And I still remember our dairy club, many years in that. One of the ones we did one time, the title was The Magnificent Milk Making Machine, the cow.
Yeah.
And she still is that way. Actually, she's so much better than she was 30 or 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And part of that is genetics. And part of that is understanding more and more what it takes for that cow to run at a high level. It's lots of things, and we'll get into some of them later, but feed efficiency was a little goofy at first because I thought, we were toting to get 60 or more pounds of dry matter intake cows and getting 80 pounds of milk, and I'm saying 34 years ago. But now we're trying to get, 100 pounds of milk out of, say, 54 pounds of dry matter, which is actually very good, and it can be done. Anyway, we didn't go to the component yet because component efficiency, it's the pounds of fat and the pounds of protein that we're going to measure and divide it by the dry matter intake. Now, if you were in a chicken business, you would know that down to the hundreds because that's how important it is.
Right.
And if you're in a hog business, you'd be down to the 10th, and you would know how important it is because it's easy in monogastrics. It's not as easy when you start adding forage to the situation. It becomes easier because TMRs were invented. By the way, this is not right or wrong, but I just still remember the first person I heard about was Dr. McCullough out of Georgia. He's the one that actually talked about TMRs and how he put them together. And some of my clients at that point said, yeah, it's going to make it just like feeding cows like we feed hogs and chickens. And they were correct, except there's different ingredients in there.
Right.
So it was a learning curve for a lot of people, and everybody's at a different spot in their life, and there's reasons for them to be there. It's trying to find out where they want to go from where they are presently.
While there are, and we'll get to this maybe not till part 2, there are some accepted standards of good, very good, and excellent. But this at the beginning, these are factors, feed efficiency, component efficiency, that are important for a farm to know where they are and not just to aspire to somebody else's number or just begin by comparing with the rest of the world. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's correct.
What are, and like I said, want to try and deal with the why here. What are some of the economic advantages as we see these aspects of efficiency increase? Because it is still relatively common to brag about how much you can shove down their throats, and another pound of milk is always better than anything else. And when you start adding in these other metrics, like you said, that lays bare pretty fast that more is not always better. But where's the money being made as these aspects of efficiency come in?
But it actually comes two different directions. The first ones are that you're getting paid more for the fat and protein pounds that go out the door. So right now, that fat is worth 30 cents a point, and the protein is worth 20 cents a point. So if you're ready to be at 90 pounds of milk, and you increase your butterfat by 1/10, you would be 30 cents, but you're not producing 100. That 90% of 30 be about 26, 27 cents, just on that tenth of fat. And we've done some things lately that we have increased fat by 2, 3, or even 4. Then you do the multiplications, and protein in milk is not as easy to move. So it's worth 20 cents per point. Again, if you're at 90 pounds, you're down to 18 cents. But you usually can't move it by 1/10 as fast, so I say you cut that in half, so you'd be at 9 cents or 0.05. So if you took your 25, 26 cents plus 9, you're about 36 cents per cow per day, which is a large number. And that's why more and more people pay attention to it. And then the other thing you can add on to that, and then people will really start questioning how you do that, is how do you get them to eat 1 pound less and give them more? And the only reason that can work is at high level of carbohydrate or calories in that diet. And of course, you can throw more corn at them, but that's not the way to do it.
Right.
You will be upsetting rumens, your butterfat will go down, and all those things. But you need to do it with high quality forages, harvested at the right time, the right kind, and make sure the hygiene of that forage is very good. And again, that magnificent milk making machine will be magnificent to you if you do all your little things right. And we're not to all the hows yet, but the why is it can make a significant difference in your income if you get all those things rolled up. The other thing that's going to be talked about soon, and I don't have a complete understanding, but this carbon credit thing and whole farm farm feed efficiency is going to fuel carbon credits that you'll be able to sell if you are that component efficient, because it'll be able to be measured.
Well, I think it's in the farming world, there's times that we see problems that either don't exist or aren't really problems. And I think at times things like carbon credits and the production of greenhouse gas has fallen under that umbrella. It's one more thing making our life difficult. But when you're doing it as a side, almost a side benefit of other good ideas, and this is almost, it starts being somewhat close to free money or money for nothing if you're improving your efficiencies, especially across the whole farm. And one of the side benefits is to then be eligible for some of these carbon credit, greenhouse gas reductions. Not that neither Don or I or Agri-King is trying to push and race to embrace a green revolution. But when it's already happening, it's foolish not to be able to take advantage of that. That'd be fair?
Yeah, and we are in a green revolution. It all starts with the cow.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's the one that can make that all work. And if you begin to make her more efficient, not only feed efficiency, but also component efficient, at both working both sides of that. One more thing is very important. If they eat less, give more, they'll also have less manure for you to haul or get rid of somehow. So there's another winning part of it.
That should stick with people. The fact that you're with some relatively small changes and not even paying any extra for hauling because you saved at 90 pounds of milk in the animal. The net, the increase in that, you rolled up over 40 cents, getting close to 50 cents a cow a day. That should have people pretty interested. I think I
would hope so. I want to go back. I want to back up a little bit and just I got lots of stories to tell over many years, but feed efficiency was introduced, and I've paid attention to several of my clients that were doing the best in feed efficiency. Like if you're 1.8 pounds of milk, and I'm just going backwards, and I'm not talking about components, but if you fed 1 pound of dry matter and you were 1.8, I mean, you were doing things I call in tall cotton then. And what I noticed for those people, and we were trying to measure it and educate, but they're the ones that, if the neighbor's farm came up for sale, they bought it.
Uh-huh.
And the rest of them were trying to chase the other things. And if you were at 1.2 pounds of milk per pound of it just, those people weren't buying farms because they didn't have the money.
Yeah.
And I know it's not all about money, and I know it's not all about income, but if you blend them all together, it's the reward you capture.
Yeah. That's perfect. Well, I think, like I say, this is going to be part one of part two. I think we should have done a pretty good job getting some of you people interested in what part two and how you're going to make some of these things happen. You kind of tune in next time type of thing. As far as finishing up this why part, Don, any other observations?
I think the why is just to say that it's going to take years to everybody get on this bandwagon. That's just the way it works. There's going to be early adopters, which are already paying attention to it. There's the middle adopters, and there's some that just, okay, it's good enough now. I would challenge the people to be early adopters to this because I've seen it work. And I've seen, I'm going to say, what that cow can do if you get everything lined up. And she's going to reward you in a very good manner if you take really good care of her. The other cliche statement I'm going to make is, if you take care of her, she's going to take care of you. And that, it's just amazing what those cows can do. And it'll help your bottom line.
Well said. That is perfect. Well, Chris, go ahead and wrap up part one. What did you learn today?
I learned that Don has a passion for people and cows, the magnificent milk-making machine from his 4-H years. I love that. Don, I would say that you are one person that when your name is mentioned, because I'm new here at Agri-King, that people just have a really deep respect for you and the things you've done. So I'm super excited about your passion and love your energy and just your love of people and the cows.
Thank you, Chris.
So, All right. If you liked what you heard, if you enjoyed what we were talking about, hit us up on any of our socials. And if you have any questions, concerns, or thoughts, you can ask us a question at podcast@agriking.com. Don and Mike, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We'll catch you next time with part 2, people.
Thank you, Chris.